Are you stuck trying to figure out what deck to play to your next tournament, whether it be a local, regional, or international championship, because you're trying to grasp a different understanding on how certain decks just so consistently beat other type of archetypes? Well, look no further today. I'm going to try to break down deck food chain, if you will, on the Evolve Your Game series from the Draw Pass TCG team. Today, we're going to be looking at how different archetypes are just set up to take down other types of deck to help you make more informed decisions on your next choice for your tournament. First, we're going to look at tank decks and what they beat. Tank decks are most known for being super strong, heavy HP archetypes that are comfortable in a two-shot format and swing for some solid damage. Those are going to be most notably Dragapult EX, Charizard EX, Arch, Aladdin, Blissey. Decks like that are going to be solid examples of those tank archetypes. You know, you can play Turo, and pretty much all of those decks, you don't mind taking a bit of a longer game to set yourself up, go for KOs. You've got the bulk, you've got the damage to manage it. Well, those decks are going to do very, very well against single prize decks. And the reason being is single prize decks, they're also going to be swinging for two-shot damage, but when you play Turo or you play different healing cards, you pivot into tank your Pokemon and they cannot find their gusting cards, you are going to get an attack ahead. You're going to be able to do that extra damage and force them in odd scenarios to take them down much easier than something like a turbo deck. Now, single prize decks, while they fall short and can't necessarily guarantee the one-hit KOs needed for the tank decks, they do insanely well against different turbo type archetypes. Now, if we think of the most notable single prize decks in the current format being Ethan's Typhlosion and the Roaring Moon single prize box, or just Ancient Box in general, those decks can swing for amazing damage on turbo Pokemon. While, maybe Ethan's Typhlosion could get up there and take down like Charizards and Dragapults. Roaring Moon is a great example of how it could comfortably hit 220, 250 damage in the mid-game and take down some huge EX Pokemon, such as even Raging Bolts, but more importantly, Ogerpons, Squawkabillies, Pheasantippities, Mew EXs, all those, regular basic EX Pokemon. They're gonna slow the game down. Their turbo decks are looking to take 2 prize cards a turn as quickly as possible. The single prize decks are saying, hey, you need to take 6 prize cards to KO me. So the single prize decks are gonna swing well and kind of force a longer game, take those big 2 prize KOs as a single prize Pokemon and disrupt the turbo decks. The turbo decks, however, can swing for insane, copious amounts of damage, and they do amazing against tank archetypes. So when we think of the most notable turbo decks, we're thinking about Raging Bolt, Joltik Fox, Golden Go. Those decks are going to blow up the tank decks. They're gonna, like Raging Bolt is gonna swing using 18 energy that they got into play instantly to take down your active Charizard EX, Dragapult EX. So, if you're playing a tank deck and you see a turbo deck, it's going to be a rough matchup for you naturally just because of the setup on turbo deck. So that is kind of like the food triangle between the three, and then control decks come into play when the format gets very stagnant. So, for example, we've seen a lot of turbo decks do well when Charizard EX has been played, and when Charizard EX is like the main tank deck out, there's a lot of abilities in the format, which means decks that utilize Cornerstone, Ogerpon, and Noivern EX in tandem can take down that format. Control decks often do amazing when the format gets stagnant, and there's 1 to maybe 3 decks that you can easily predict and come up with a consistent way to beat all 3 of them with a few select Pokemon targeting usually one part of the board state, whether it's a certain Pokemon in play or retreat lock, the deck size you're going for mill, energy, control, stuff like that. So that is going to be the deck breakdown and the deck food chain to help you better learn what deck to play in the format based on how it's evolving.